It's awkward. Our top story tonight, some going down in November.
Wars, spending.
There has got to be something big a-brewing.
They're using geese to guard prisons in Brazil.
Does Biden know what Mexico
policies.
is? Would you scare Joe Biden? What are we laughing at?
I think Billy Mays was real.
I'm a world-class skeptic.
I don't know anything about Hunter Biden. I don't know who's big into cocaine and laptops. Why is that our problem?
Complete, absolute incompetence. Like, who funds the news?
It's a freaking inside job, man. That the entire world's a stage and everything's fake.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Veritas Road, specifically Touch Me Tuesdays on the Veritas Road, where we talk about the things that touched me this week. And hopefully we can touch you too. And, you know, hopefully Carson and John back here with you. Hopefully John gets touched as well. John doesn't like to be touched. For anybody who is curious, if you touch him, he has a small outbreak of autism, but he does get touched sometimes. And maybe we'll touch him tonight and see what happens. Very exciting stuff. So before we get into what I have prepared for the evening, a couple of things. First, if you're watching, like the stream, follow the channel. Go. Thank you, Neff Hunter. He's going to go touch that beard. John does have a good beard. For anybody who's listening on the audio platforms, it's turned into a nice beard. It used to be not nice. It used to make you look like a pedophile, John, but it has come in the past several years.
That's like dude actually putting in work to get it to do that and taking care of it. So,
see, I don't mean this to sound like a humble brag. I've never had to do that. Like,
yeah, congrats. You also had a beard when you were like 8th grade, and
that is also true. I was
weird,
that awkward kid who got made fun of having a mustache at 12. Which was also an unpleasant experience, let me tell you.
You just had everything stacked against you as a child, didn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like, I was redheaded. I wasn't very tall. I carried a science encyclopedia around when I was 8.
I had 40-year-old facial hair when you were like 10.
Yeah, my parents were both like in their 70s by the time I was 10. And
people thought your brother was your dad.
Yeah, a lot of people thought my siblings were my parents. It wasn't the ideal young person's life, but I would say I made something of it, but we're still waiting on that to happen. So I'll just say I haven't ever self-harmed. That I feel like is a win, given
that took a dark turn real fast. Goodness.
It did. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything else. So, folks, before we get into anything excessively dark, let's discuss what we have coming this Friday. We're going to be going on what show are we going on? The 6G Agenda podcast with Andrew. Andrew, if you're watching, I'm sorry I don't know your last name. I feel like you've put it out there and I don't remember it. So we're going on the 6G Agenda podcast with Andrew. That is going to be a phenomenal time. We're going to be talking about clones, maybe a little terrain theory. Andrew is watching. Andrew, thank you. Very excited about that. So guys, if you don't follow 6G Agenda on YouTube or any of the social medias, go follow that. It'll be Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time, I believe. Andrew, that was for you. Andrew is a very busy boy. So we should be talking about clones, maybe a little bit of terrain theory. I'm very excited about that. And if you don't like his channel, if you don't follow his channel, go like it, follow it. You'll get a lot of excellent information over there. So please go do that, and go do that immediately. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're tucking your kid in good night, okay? Slap that to sleep and go follow Andrew's channel. Don't actually slap your children, people, but don't hit your kid. Anyway, go follow his channel. We'll be there 7 p.m. Central Time this coming Friday evening. Very excited about that. Then, guys, if you like the show, want to support the show, go to all the socials. We're at the Veritas Road. Everywhere, we're at the Veritas Road Pod on Twitter. Yes, Andrew, we can absolutely make it 8. No problem at all, sir. Sounds like you are a busy, busy fellow. So it'll be 8 p.m. Central Time, folks, this coming Friday.
This is
And
why
then we're
you
at the
should tune into the lives.
Do what?
That's why you should tune into our live streams. You get
That's a good point, John.
On the second. So,
Booking a gig this very minute.
yeah.
It's a very good point. Yeah. So, yeah, with the Veritas Road everywhere, the Veritas Road pod on Twitter, because our old Twitter account got nuked. And then if you want a little bit extra of the show, you can go sign up for the Patreon. Oh, yeah, be sure, before we talk about the Patreon, be sure to follow us on all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We can't get into our Apple Podcasts, so we'll see what happens with that in the coming months. But go be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms. And then you like the show, want to support the show. Maybe you want a little bit more of the show, folks. Head over to Patreon, patreon.com/Veritas Road. You can get in where you fit in over there. You can get access to our Discord chat, which is a good time if you want autistic rants, maybe some talking, maybe an outrageous amount of links. You can go over there and get at, Nefhunter, I'm talking about you, by the way, if you're listening. An outrageous amount of links is Nefhunter. And we appreciate it. Never stop, never change. Go over there. You can sign up for whatever tier you feel compelled to sign up for, but you'll get access to the Discord chat, some exclusive content that goes to Patreon. Every time we do a guest show, we do a post-show reaction. You can get that live the night of. I feel like that's pretty valuable. And then the odd Patreon exclusive episode. So go there, sign up if you want more of whatever we do here. So... am I missing anything, John? I feel like we have one more thing coming up. Do we not? I can't remember.
I think you got it covered for the near future.
Okay.
So
good. Speaking of stuff we did, this is kind of what I wanted. This is one of the two things I wanted to open the show with tonight. Folks, if you missed our show we did with the Berean Files, go watch it because they're phenomenal. They're brilliant. But we talked a lot about like the Christian need to engage with darkness and kind of impose order on chaos this last week. That was this past Friday, Saturday, something like that, John?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that really stuck with me after that was, I don't know about folks listening, but growing up in like the Christian sphere, I never felt like the message of the faith I was handed, the Christianity I was handed, was very active. And I'll kind of parse that out. So people always paint the Christian faith as like this not always, but a lot of people paint the Christian faith, especially in modern Western Christianity, as this very passive thing, right? Like people sitting and meditating in their house, turn the other cheek, don't draw your sword, don't, this aggressively passive thing. And for me, and this is probably not true of all the people that espouse these ideas, but for me, it almost bordered the lazy, the lackadaisical, the what's what I'm looking for? We're like, you just don't do anything to make anything happen,
Apathy.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, apathetic, unconcerned. Like that's kind of what that dogma bordered. And after our discussion with Zach and Jason on the Berean Files, talking about how like a lot of Christianity is God bringing order to chaos and him calling people to bring order to chaos. I've felt a lot more compelled to do stuff. Like when you believe your entire faith system is centered around being a passive, you really don't want to go do anything. Like you really have no desire to go impose your will on your own reality. I mean, maybe this is just me, but I really had no desire to impose my will on my own reality. Like I didn't feel any purpose to do that. It's like this whole concept, like just pray about it. Have you prayed about it? Just pray about it. Don't do anything. Just pray about it. And I think this idea of people being called to impose order to chaos is very powerful and is a lot more purposeful than the general message of Christianity in the Western world, in the modern Western world. It's like, just have faith and pray and you'll be fine. Don't do anything. Just, John, have you prayed about it? Don't do anything. Just pray about it. Don't get up off your ass on your couch. Just go pray about it. Good people don't do anything. right? And so I don't know about you, John. I'm curious as to what your thoughts are, but like I've woken up with a lot more purpose since then, actually. It was weirdly cathartic for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great episode, and I think a lot of, really good truth spoken there. And the reality is like, pretty much all of society at this point has adopted this kind of really effed up, corporate model of interacting with each other. And,
Yeah.
that model is designed to deflect accountability and pass accountability onto the next person and the next person and so forth. And when you do that, you end up not doing anything. It's like if you go like most people have had that
Agreed.
experience when you go into some type of corporate job, or you deal with some type of corporate bureaucracy, whether it be dealing with your insurance company or dealing with local government, like whatever the organization might be. You find very often you just encounter people who don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
They'll kind of pretend like they are to kind of satisfy whatever reason you're there, but they really don't want to do anything, and they just try to pass decisions off to the next person.
Yeah.
And modern church has adopted that same model as well, so it's no shocker that like that mentality breeds over into that system. It's the nature of it. It's how it's designed. It's doing what it's intended to do. Unfortunately, most people, just because that's their day-to-day life, you don't necessarily recognize it. It just seems normal. But it's not normal human interaction. It's not normal way to live life. It's not really what you're called to do. It's like you're kind of called to take responsibility and take ownership over things and do. And we've designed a society to try and keep people from doing that.
100%. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And so, yeah, for me, it was nice to hear externally the message of like, yeah, do something. Like,
Yeah.
do something in that, because it's so rare now. You're exactly right. Like it's invaded, it's infected not just the religious spiritual world, but like every aspect of most people's lives. Like a corporate job is a perfect example. What's the best way to make it up the corporate ladder at your job? And this always sounds like some like stereotypical hyperbolic trope, but it's fucking true. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't piss anybody off. Don't actually produce anything. Don't do anything, and people will love and respect you. It's incredible. I do it every day, folks. I know it works.
Right.
And
yeah,
it's mind-blowing.
Yeah. How I Met Your Mother, Barney's like, corporate America wants people who seem like bold, innovative risk takers, but actually don't do anything.
Yes,
bold, innovative
exactly
risk takers get fired. And like there's a lot of truth to that, because the whole thing's kind of designed around comfort and not rocking the boat. And it's like, right, that's why everything kind of is like uniform and the same. It's why you have set policies for how everybody deals with each other and deals with specific situations, set processes. It's why you have all these things that are just the same. It's why most offices, everything looks the same, because you don't want it's designed to not have anything like rock the boat and make something uncomfortable.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my head this week. For anybody who gave a shit, that's what I've been thinking about. And also, okay, so a couple of things off the top. I guess we'll get into this first one. The World Cup's been going on right now. There's been a lot of talk. John, you've been watching the World Cup. I know there's been a lot of talk about like, hey, is there going to be some wild event at the World Cup? And apparently, Neff Hunter sent us this video or this link. Somebody on 4chan, which God love these people who are still on 4chan.
Right?
I didn't know anybody was still posting anything on there. Like, good for these folks. Somebody posted 60% of humanity is going to die. There we go. 60% of humanity is going to die, he says, by June 16 of 2026. And he posted this weird QAnon-looking thing.
Yeah, 1:33 and 47 seconds.
Yeah, that's got to be a coincidence, right?
All right.
Also, Spain beat France today. I think I saw somebody drop that in the chat as well, which was wild. John, were you shocked by that? I know you probably watched the game.
I did watch it, and not really. Didier Deschamps lost that game for France, but nobody wants to hear me rant about that. So let's move on.
Kudos to you for restraining yourself there. I would like to take a moment to appreciate that. But I mean, so some guy posted on 4chan, hey, 60% of humanity is going to die on July 16th, 2026. Something will launch a fake alien invasion. MJ12 will launch a fake alien invasion. And at this point, I don't know what to think, because my issue is currently and has been for a long time. It seems like every so often the same playbook repeats, right? Like we had this same shit going on when I was about to graduate high school. Everybody was going to say the world was going to end in 2012, right? Like everybody shares these apocalyptic or pseudo-apocalyptic predictions every so often. Now, this one's a little more like culty, conspiracy theory-ish, because it's, the World Cup. Everybody's been talking about, hey, maybe there'll be an alien invasion during the World Cup. But it seems like we run this same playbook all the time. And so, John, I feel like we beat this drum regularly, and I know you've talked about this ad nauseum, but I don't see any reason to pay attention to this shit anymore. Like, okay, maybe an alien invasion's gonna happen, and it'll be interesting, it'll be fun, there'll be a lot of people out there saying it's real, it'll be a thing if and when it does happen. But until it does, is there any point in getting up in arms about these wild predictions on 4chan of all places? I mean, it's 4chan.
I mean, not really. Anybody, we know that, like, the whole QAnon movement was a massive psyop, and it was a massive psyop of the conspiracy theory people.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it was. And a lot of this, I think, it's kind of it's kind of the opinion I'm starting to lean towards now, is that I think a lot of this, like, oh, there's going to be something massive that happened at the UFC event, or something massive that happens at the World Cup, I think is kind of just trying to maybe redirect expectations, so to speak, and kind of get people to where they look towards these like massive events, and they kind of throw their energy into these things that we kind of already know are pseudo occult rituals anyway, when in reality, whenever something like this does come down the pipe, it always, I feel like, will come in a little bit more subtle. Like, right, like Corona built its way in. If we think like the last big world altering event, it wasn't like the hammer dropped immediately, right? It kind of had a subtle build up, and then like the hammer kind of dropped in March of 2020. But you had about 8-9 months of this kind of like very subtle changes that did happen in places around the world. Like China started to do all the first, right? And then it kind of spread, and then it hit the West. And I feel like that might be how more something like this plays out. I don't know if it's going to be like all the eyes of the world are on one thing at once, and that's when shit's going to happen. Because it's
really
like
the way it works.
It's never the way it works. And also, if you think about it, like, how believable is that really? Like, especially at the point like society has gotten to, people have kind of woken up a little bit. I think like, people will be like, that's a little bit too much of a coincidence, right? Like you look at the Charlie Kirk thing where everybody was kind of watching it at once, and nobody believes that story, because it's just like, oh, it's just too coincidental in like how the events unfold. It's like he's talking about trans shooters and gets shot by a trans shooter, like live in front of everybody. Like, come on, I think there is a little bit of that like mentality amongst kind of the more normie population, if you will.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know if it's going to play out like this or not.
Dude, I mean, I can't see a world where it does. It seems like one of two things typically happens. Like either there's a big, I don't want to call it a false flag event, but like there's a big thing like 9/11. It's sudden. It surprises people. It shocks people. It traumatizes people, right? And Andrew makes a great point. 6G agenda, chaos is the sole objective. Like that seems to be what they're aiming for. That's exactly what they did with Corona. But there was this like slow ramp up to creating chaos and confusion. And if we're going to go with that thought process, honestly, I think you almost create more chaos with just building up the tension and letting people be autistic and out there about this alien invasion World Cup stuff. Like, because if the event is realized, right? It's like when you come too early, nothing's going to happen. You're going to go to bed, you're going to go to sleep, and then that's going to be it, right? There's going to be no more fun. We want to keep having fun. And so I can't imagine. I have a hard time. And watch, I'll say this, and then it'll happen in 2 weeks. But I have a hard time imagining it happening.
World Cup finals on Sunday.
Well, you know what I mean. I have a hard time imagining it happen exactly the way literally everybody's predicting it's going to happen. I mean, that never seems to be the way things play out. It just seems a little. The concept doesn't seem far-fetched, but the narrative seems far-fetched to me that it's going to happen the way all these people suggest it will. Yeah. Speaking of just fully narratives, folks, somehow we are a country with a can-do attitude, and ladies and gentlemen, we're still bombing Iran. I mean, we allegedly had some peace talks a few weeks ago. But we're still bombing Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is still being blockaded, and Trump is concerned about these United States ships that need safe passage. Okay, because our entire world economy relies on this one Strait of Hormuz that nobody had heard about until like 3 months ago. I mean, John, did you know what the Strait of Hormuz was 3 months ago?
I still don't.
Right. Like this shift from nobody having any clue what the hell this is to it being in everybody's vocabulary is completely ridiculous. And I'm going to argue this is one last effort to get it back in the minds of the populace before this story goes to bed for good. I mean, you can't keep beating this dead horse ad infinitum. Everybody under the age of like 50 has already lost interest. I think they still probably have some of the papaws, meemaws, and boomers out there who are still paying attention to this narrative. The people who watch, CNN or Fox or whatever. Are there even any other news channels out there anymore? The people who literally just mouth straight to the nozzle of a hose, just spewing out from the legacy media. Like, these are the only people still paying attention to this stuff.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even think it's for them at this point, dude. In all honesty, I think it's for us. Like, I think it's for the
cranky people.
No, I mean, I think it's for like the conspiracy theorists and like, the people on the outside of the Overton window, because it's kind of stringing them along, along this whole little, kind of what Andrew said earlier in the chat, like this whole little like chaos operation that they got going. Right. Yeah. And this is just like kind of one of the tools in the mechanism for that. Because it's like, how many boomers are paying attention to this? Like, dude, they're out living in Florida and living on the coast, drinking themselves to death, blowing all their kids' inheritance. I don't really think how many of them are even caring about this anyway.
Well, this is what they talk about instead of like football scores. They talk about what's going on with Iran.
I guess
you and I talk about the World Cup when we get together for a couple of drinks. These folks talk about Iran and what it was like to see Janet Jackson's like, that's all they talk about.
I mean, I guess I don't even know anymore. It seems like that like the older generation in society are just kind of checked out and doing their own life at this point. Like, I really am starting to think that this is actually for the people who are kind of paying attention and stringing them along into this kind of chaos operation, right? Especially, we talked about with Ben a couple of weeks ago about like this whole idea to manufacture biblical prophecy. Obviously, massive conflict involving Israel and the Middle East is a big component in that. So if you have the people who are paying attention to that, this is kind of, doing that surface level narrative for them to maybe try to, I don't know, subvert what's actually going on, like behind the scenes of how it's actually going to try to play out. It just, I don't see enough of like the normie population really buying into this anymore. Because if you look back in like, 2016, when the whole mainstream narrative was like the woke agenda, like the normies were paying attention to that. Like that actually had massive like cultural implications and effect. Like, and it affected like, people, a little bit affected people's day to day. It's like, a lot of people had to confront that shit at work, and they had to confront like, diversity training, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
This kind of modern, what's going on now, people don't really have to confront it. It's not really moving the culture in any way.
That's a fair point.
This story's not moving the culture at all. No one gives a shit. So it's got to be, there's got to be something else going on at play than just to, grab the normies' attentions, because it's not doing that.
And that you may very well be correct there. I think it's a perfectly rational viewpoint on this. I think the other possibility is it's just another way to kind of test the waters, because like,
sure,
it seems to me like we do this relatively regularly, to where you float a story out there and maybe you try to put a decent amount of media attention on it just to see if the fish will bite. Like it seems like we've done this a couple of times, even on like micro scales. Like we've seen this, even with the, like you mentioned, the storms we had here in Columbia not too long ago, how like everybody was about, don't go outside when it's dangerous, even before the storm started. Right. Like they kind of floated that out there, and some people bit on that narrative. The vast majority didn't. They just hunkered down at home and chilled. But you saw, I think, two things. Like the recall of 2020, where people were pissed because you went out and just lived your life and they didn't like that. But also like this effort to get people to hyper focus on a concept or a narrative that either they weren't ready for, maybe they didn't push it hard enough, whatever it happens to be. I do wonder if things like this get put out there, because if you remember the way a lot of this Iran talk started, Iran, however the hell you're supposed to say that, a lot of this discussion started, at least in the echo chamber I live in. It was a lot of people were talking about how this is going to affect your daily life. This is the beginning of the energy squeeze on your circle of travel. This is the beginning of the world economy starting to shut down. Like a lot of almost like you heard in 2019.
Right.
And after the narrative kind of played out a little bit and nobody really paid it any attention, it started to die down. And so I wonder if there's an element of that effort to see, are people ready and willing to, behave according to the script we've written for them, or do we need to try again at some later point down the road?
Willing to actually let this affect them, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think like 2020 and the Rona was novel enough for a lot of people in my generation to where they didn't know how to respond other than to just open their mouth and take, the Fauci. But enough people still remember, 2001 that I and all the shit that went on after.
Right.
I just don't see people latching onto that, and I wonder if this was an effort to kind of a litmus test, so to speak, to see what the waters were like.
Yeah.
And speaking of government operations, folks, what in the Mitch McConnell is going on with Lindsey Graham, or what in the Lindsey Graham is going on with? I don't know which one to put first. I'm pretty sure they're the same person at this point. I'm not sure which one is still alive. I'm not sure really who's who, what state who's from, who's whose wife or their son or who's like, I'm not sure what's going on with these people other than to say,
I mean, if you've heard Lindsey Graham speak, I think we're all pretty sure who's gay. But continue.
Don't speak ill of the dead, John. How dare you? Oh my gosh. Gasp. Talking about Lindsey Graham? You saying he was gay?
I mean, you've heard him talk.
I can't believe it. I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he's married, and a lot of married men are a little effeminate.
He's literally not. He wasn't.
Oh, was he not?
He wasn't married, had no kids.
Yeah, that's a gay dude if I ever heard one. So we'll start with Mitch McConnell because that's what I had listed first. The HuffPost came out and I can't even scroll on this article. What is going on? The HuffPost came out and said Lindsey Graham's cause of death released, and McConnell breaks silence about his health. I mean, this is exciting stuff, folks. Mitch McConnell, Scott Jennings said he spoke to Mitch McConnell the morning this article was written. He said he's recovering in the hospital, and they talked for just shy of 20 minutes about Iran, Ukraine, the unfolding situation in Maine, which what the hell's going on in Maine? I don't even know what's going on in Maine. I've never seen a political organization try so hard to, probably not a political organization. I've never seen so much attention to somebody, I've rarely seen so much attention to somebody not being dead. Like we placed a lot of attention around Mitch McConnell having a pulse. And I have no idea what the hell is going on with this. Like, I don't know what to think anymore. He came out on his personal Facebook page, his business Facebook page, his media team did. You elected me for a 7th term and made our Commonwealth's longest serving senator. You did so trusting that I'd keep showing up to fight for you every day. And posted this video of what I'm pretty sure is a Jim Henson puppet with this Asian woman's hand up its ass. Like, I don't think that's Mitch McConnell or the ghost of Mitch McConnell or whatever that's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure that dude's been dead since that weird congressional up where he just stopped talking. And what I really don't understand is the swift and immediate shift of attention to him and Lindsey Graham at the same time, because you have this weird narrative where the Mitch McConnell stuff happens, and then immediately, Lindsey Graham passes away. Like, not that long after. Dies at 71, brief and sudden illness. Do we even have a cause of death for this formerly gentleman?
He allegedly went into cardiac arrest.
Okay. I mean, to be fair,
an aortic dissection.
Old Southern men do that all the time. I live in Tennessee. This does happen very regularly. So yeah. I'm not a suspect of that now. That actually kind of makes sense. I mean, look at that double chin there. I mean, that is screams stroke, that screams diabetes, that screams I don't need to say what I was just thinking. And TMZ pulled exclusive photos, allegedly, of Lindsey Graham's corpse being carted out of his residence, which what the hell kind of journalist is out on the beat at 2 a.m. on July 12th and is just snapping pictures of Lindsey Graham?
The comment down there is really funny.
What was it?
First reply. He died
doing what he
being surrounded by a bunch of men. Hats off to that bot. That's good.
Well done. That's hilarious. Wow. All right, here we go. Allegedly, this is the conspiracy theory around Graham. Allegedly, he inspected a drone factory, and then Russia blew up that factory, and then he died. So he supposedly inspected a drone factory on July 11th, and that factory was blown up by Russia on July 11th, and then he died on the 12th.
Yeah,
so you know, there's that.
He allegedly was in Ukraine doing work on the 11th and died in DC on the 12th. Like,
yeah,
that's a little weird, I guess.
It's a little strange. I mean, from the if we're gonna be like cardiac arrest dweebs, like people get blood clots on planes and that happens, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, to me, the most strange thing about this is the proximity. Granted, these both of these men are older than Moses, so maybe I shouldn't be shocked. Maybe I shouldn't think this is suspect. But it's the proximity of Graham and Mitch McConnell having these health issues like almost on top of each other. You know, to me that seems a little strange, and I don't know why. It's one of those weird moments where like these guys dying would be no surprise to anyone. Like they're old as shit. They've probably done a lot of coke. They probably, eat a lot of food. They probably a lot of young boys. Like these are things that take it out of you. Okay? It's hard to run around with young 22-year-old men as a 71-year-old senator and not get tired. So I'm not surprised that these gentlemen were or are having health issues. For me, it's the proximity of one to the other that seems a little strange. And Neff Hunter just posted, you seen the video where they're swearing in his next of kin? Yeah, they swore in Lindsey Graham's sister, I believe, either earlier today or yesterday. They swore her into office. I haven't actually watched the entire video, but they almost immediately swore in his sister, which, like, shouldn't it take a little bit longer to swear in a replacement? Shouldn't there be like a mourning period or something? Like flags at half-mast, people wearing black, widows pretending to cry while they go by a Mercedes. Like, shouldn't there be something going on? Some kind of underhanded grieving ceremony, a small wake, something. But again, it's the proximity of Graham to McConnell that just seems strange to me. I mean, is there anything that's, because honestly, objectively, there's nothing weird about two old senators dying and or being in the hospital. Like, there's nothing weird about that. But for me, it's the proximity of the two. John, I mean, is anything clicking your, discernment meter, so to speak?
I mean, not overtly. I think it is interesting just it being Lindsey Graham, being like, it's very, whether it's opportune or it's planned, I don't really think it matters. It's a great moment for like the whole Jew noticing thing to just take another level, because obviously Lindsey Graham is like the champion of Middle Eastern wars, the champions of war for Israel and AIPAC and all of that crap. Like, he's probably like one of the top 5 guys in politics that, pushes all that crap. Right. If you look at comments of every reply on tweets about his death, that's all it's about. That's literally all it's about. So
Yeah.
it is a good opportunity for that narrative to kind of take a stronger foothold in society. And, obviously they're, feeding a little bit of a conspiracy narrative. It's like, oh, maybe he, got killed in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and maybe bringing that back around. But I mean, I doubt it.
This was
at the minimum, it's like they're able to just take that whole like noticing narrative into overdrive. But outside of that, I don't really know. I don't have a ton of, thoughts or anything like just shooting out at me about this. And, there is like just the kind of, I think that's obvious at this point, kind of reinforcing the whole politics spell. Well, people will be like, and complaining about how like, their political leaders are ancient and dying. And like, Joe Biden, was in a coma his entire presidency, but still just jive with the whole thing and vote in the next election cycle. That's always happening with crap like this. But
Yeah, man, I was wondering about that the other day. I was talking about my mom came to visit me and I had a horrible migraine, so I didn't want to talk to her, but I did. I took one for the team that day, like a good son. And we were talking about that concept, because like she was born in the 50s and she grew up in a time where obviously a lot of people were a lot more culturally patriotic than folks are now, right? And I mentioned something about like having to get my driver's license renewed, but the fact that my voter registration also expired, and historically, she would have been like, "Well, you better go get that done. Like you need to vote. That's what the people do." And this was the first time in my life she's never admonished me, rebuked me for not taking part in the voting scheme. And I don't know if it's just specifically her, if that generation is starting to change their minds, but I used to I used to say that in an effort to shut the people up who would tell me like you need to vote, you need to have a voice. I used to say like in a defensive manner once upon a time, like I don't vote. I know I should, right? Like I know I need to absolve myself of at a minimum any responsibility for feeling bad if the outcome I want from this election, isn't achieved. And I've reached a point finally now. I've just dropped that narrative entirely because I think, and this doesn't represent a positive personal change on my end. I think a lot of the people that I would have made that argument with are also starting to see how this whole political system is kind of like that's becoming a more and more common thought process. I mean, you've talked about it on our show a ton, John, is this whole idea of like they appear to be kind of slowly, at a minimum, tearing down the old world appearance of, the political stage. It's not, we're not building this up the same way we used to. It's not the same thing it once was back in the 90s, right? Or before the 90s, back in the, the 50s when it was like cool and people talked in a transatlantic accent and we used to get things done here in America. Like it's not the same thing it was even when Clinton was getting blown in the Oval Office. Like people still believed in some kind of like grander, useful socio-political concept, and I don't think a lot of them are anymore. And the thing that makes me nervous about that, I think Andrew just touched on it in the chat, actually said they want us to give up on the system so badly, and it seems to be working. Not to say voting works, but just in general, the whole deal. The thing that makes me nervous about this, to finally get to my point, sorry, folks, is it feels like a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of moment. And I don't want to be the person beating the whole like the same drum that everybody else beats, which I think is good. I think it's valuable. Like go grow your own food, move away from the system. Don't be a part of the whole thing. But it feels like either you believe in this system and you continue to put your faith in what is clearly just a fully concept full of wieners, gonads, and right? Or you start to pull your attention and your concern and all of that away from something that's clearly fake. But my concern is it seems like that's what these sons of bitches want.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me uncomfortable about it all.
Yeah, I mean, what they specifically want is they want you to redirect. Like, there's a difference between like redirecting your attention from the system into like it's real, like what you were, what you kind of alluded to is like, going and doing like real
good things.
And, yeah, good things, and then redirecting your attention into apathy. That's
Right.
what they want, right? Is like they don't want like the Owen Benjamins or the Stacks of the world deflecting, right? They want the people who will deflect, but they won't do anything. They'll just go into nihilism and apathy, right? So, and like that's what when you take it all in like collective, that's what they're doing is like, hey, we'll make the political system, but also the healthcare system, and also the financial system, also the banking system, also the corporate system. So it's like everywhere you turn, like you almost don't necessarily get out of it, so to speak. It's like, yeah, you don't pay attention to the political system, but the same principles are at your job, right? The same principles are at your doctor's office. The same principles are at your bank, right? It's all around you.
Yeah, dude.
So it's like you might not pay attention to that, but you're latched on somewhere else and ultimately just to breed apathy and nihilism to where you don't actually do anything about it.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
And it works. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
sad part. It works super
it's
well.
very effective.
And if you want a clear example of how they do this, folks, I ran across this. I can't remember. I think it was in the shower, just fully just pissed off, nude, and kind of drunk the other day. And I rarely ever scroll on the social media, which is why it's always a pain in the ass to get ready for these Tuesday streams, because I have to actually sit down and intentionally like go through social media. But this one was organic. I ran across this video about how they're making it illegal to collect rainwater in Oregon. Damn it, I pulled it up on the wrong screen. Stand by.
Oregon man was convicted and sent to jail for collecting and using rainwater on his own property, sued by the state for theft. Rancher Gary Harrington built 3 large reservoirs on his own land to collect rainwater and snow melt. He claimed the water was primarily for fire protection reserves and for providing water to wildlife. But the state called it theft and prosecuted Gary. A municipal code stipulates that all water within city limits, including precipitation, is part of the public water supply. The city requested the court order the removal of his collection system and impose a fine. Despite Harrington's repeated appeals, arguing, "The water fell on my land. I'm not selling it. I'm simply using it on my own property." The court ultimately rejected his claims. Harrington was found guilty on multiple charges, including unlawful appropriation of state water resources. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail and fined over $1,500. The incident sparked intense backlash. Residents said it was simply tyranny. If a person cannot own the rain that falls on their own land, what do they actually own?
Okay, 2 things I think are going on here. 1, clearly these organizations are doing everything they can to make you doing anything with yourself a pain in the ass. Okay, like that's obviously the case. All right, but problem B is I think videos like this are popularized out there and exist out there, and maybe this person's doing something good to like publicize what happened to this poor guy or whatever it happens to be, you know. But my concern, my real concern behind things like this is they're putting this out there too, like we were just talking about, make this seem difficult, make it sound like, hey, you shouldn't do anything, make people apathetic, make people nihilistic, make it seem so hard to do anything with yourself that you just don't, that you go home after your miserable 9 to 5 where you're already numb all day because you don't do anything, and then you head home to your house where you can't do anything because you've been taught that you can't. Like whatever happened to this guy, I'm sure it wasn't as bad as whatever stuff they were saying in the video. $1,500, 30 days in jail. There's no way there's no way he did 30 days in jail. I doubt he paid the county however much they fined him. Like I'm sure that didn't end up being the case. But point being, I think and if this did happen to this guy, this fucking sucks. Like it shouldn't happen. It's terrible. But I think half the reason stuff like this is so publicized is to keep people from feeling like they can do a damn thing. I've run into this in my own like personal life with like people I'm related to sometimes where they're like, oh, but if you do that, they might. Who gives a shit what they might do? Right? Who gives a shit what the county might do, the government might do if you're collecting rainwater, one of the most inert activities anyone's ever heard of? Like the real fear about somebody knocking on your door and saying you can't do that is you were the asshole. But if they're the asshole, who cares? They can knock on your door all day. Like, is this making sense, John? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and like something to pay attention what I noticed about that video, other than like the very odd black guy at the start of it for clickbait, which I thought was hilarious.
That was great.
Hats off to that, whoever created that, because it's very funny. But it's designed to produce a negative reaction, right?
100%.
Like the pacing
100%.
of the AI voice, like the tone of, like the shrill tone of the AI voice, and like the way that it, you know, the points that it kind of harkens on. It's designed to produce a negative reaction. And there's a lot of that type of content out there. A lot of like the mainstream, you know, influencer industrial complex conspiracy content is that.
Yeah.
Right. It's designed
So
to
much
kind of produce like this kind of negative reaction so that you do the things that you were talking about there, is that you know, elevate emotions of anger and nihilism and like hopelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of get lost in a little bit, I think, of maybe what we were talking about the other night, is you kind of get lost in like just the absolute of it all, you know? And it's like, you got to be very, very careful about like that subtle messaging style, because it's done intentionally. I really think that it is done intentionally, and that stuff is promoted by the algorithm very intentionally.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely correct. And I don't know what to do about this, man, other than not engage. And generally speaking, I don't. Like, it's when we do shows like this that I engage with it. But for people who are, you know, scrolling through their phones, which I feel like is the mass majority of people, like, you're going to run across this stuff. And even the people who are starting to, you know, I don't know, man. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to get very cranky if I keep talking about this. So, what do we have next? Let's take a look here. Stand by, folks. Oh, yeah. We, at a bar I worked at about, I don't know, this was probably 5-ish years ago. I worked at a bar in a tiny town in bumfuck nowhere, Tennessee. And they got this new tap system for the beers. And they called it like the beer market or something like that, where like every time you order a particular beer, like let's say you order a Dos Equis, John. Every time you order a Dos Equis, or I order a Dos Equis, it goes up by like 5 cents every time. And the longer it goes without being ordered, it goes down like 10 cents. For every 10 minutes nobody orders it, it goes down X amount. And there would be certain times where like you'd have a crash of the market and beers would be half off. Like, it was this weird gimmick to get people to, you know, buy more beer and for more, like, to drive the cost of it up. And it was all AI driven, right, by whatever AI algorithms they put in place in the software we bought. And it appears that we're gonna have the same thing going on at the gas pump.
A new lawsuit claims gas stations are actually using AI to drive up prices at the pump. California drivers are suing 7 companies, including BP, Circle K, 7-Eleven, and Walmart. They claim they're using an AI tool called Calibrate, with a K, to adjust prices based on confidential data. The lawsuit claims this has increased gas prices by as much as 30 cents a gallon. Walmart told ABC News they are reviewing the complaint and will respond appropriately in court.
All right, how they're doing this is really wild, and we need to pay very close attention to this, because what they're doing is all these companies are feeding in their confidential real-time data into this AI, okay? So this means sales volumes, historical pricing, everything. And then the AI is using machine learning and algorithms to maximize profits based on all this data, like traffic patterns, time of day, competitor moves, weather, events. So all this data is being fed into this AI by all these separate companies. And then the AI is compiling all this information and finding out a way to maximize the profits for everyone. So you can actually pay more based on the time of day and how much traffic there is, and how many people are on the road going to these pumps. It knows all that and is trying to maximize profits. This is wild, and it's going to be used in so many industries to squeeze us for everything that we have.
Okay, I got news for you, folks. The shit's been going on for a while. Like I know we live in, again, nowhere Tennessee, but Uber and Lyft have been doing this for forever with like their peak pricing. If it's, 5 p.m. on a Friday to like 3 a.m. in the morning, a 3-mile Uber is going to cost 12 times more than it did during not peak hours. The same thing happens with flights. This shit's been going on for years. We're just expanding the operation to beers, to fast food, to gas stations. And yeah, it's all AI data driven. And it's problematic. It's a bunch of, deep state creepy where they're stealing your data. But they've been doing it for forever. Why are we just freaking out now? The time to freak out was in like 1987, okay? When they started taking Papa's credit card and looking at what he spent every month and telling him, guess what, PP, Papa, whatever the hell his name is, you can get 3% cash back every month for all the dildos you buy. Did you know that? And it'll rotate. So one month it'll be sex toys. The next month it'll be groceries. The next month it'll be restaurants. And we're just going to keep track of everything you buy. And when you buy it, you can give one to Gam too, okay? And you're going to get a deal, all right? That $300 sex swing could have cost you $29.97 if you had gotten this new Sears Gold Card. You could have gotten this, and you could have saved $2.75. And so they've been doing this forever in the name of like helping people out, and it works super well on Pop and Gam. Like that boomer generation that gets jerked off to the idea of saving 18 cents on a can of tuna. Worked great on them, and they really helped to usher this concept in. It's been going on for forever, and I don't say that to like say people shouldn't get upset and pissed off about it. Like clearly this is a massive problem, right? Like the idea that people are watching what you're spending, when you're spending, how you're spending, and using that to essentially price gouge is unscrupulous as hell. And here's what I'll say about this on a less conspiratorial level. If this were individual people doing this, I really wouldn't have a problem with it. Like if I was buying specifically from John and he knew the need for his widgets, was greater at 3 p.m. and he charged more at 3 p.m. because he knew that because it's his business, I'd be like, cool. But this is the marriage of church and state here, right? This is the marriage of business and state where mass government entities are in bed with gigantic corporations. And essentially you have no one else to go to, no one else to talk to, no recourse, but to bend over and take it up the ass. Like that's where we're at with a lot of this stuff. I was talking to somebody the other day about this whole concept of like capitalism. Is this girl I met from out of town. She was from Canada. And she was talking about how like the Canadian government is kind of socialist, but the American government's capitalist. So it's not as bad here, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? We haven't had anything resembling capitalism, certainly not in my lifetime and maybe ever. We have this weird, like, I don't even want to call it marriage. We have this weird marriage between corporations and the United States federal government where they're both in bed for each other, but it's not pretty because they both have, nobody wants it. Nobody wants to see that. It needs to stop, but they just keep doing it. So we just allow it to continue to happen. It's very marriage-ish. And so I just, sure, this is upsetting and this is problematic. But what's a boy to do? At this point, I guess maybe I've just been so beaten down by the concept. I just don't care. I mean, John, are you worried that gas might cost you 17 cents more tomorrow if you buy it at 3:30 in the afternoon?
I mean, not really. I find it funny, just on the face of it, people are freaking out about this change in gas price, like pricing model. And like anybody understands where gas prices come from in the first place. Like now,
it's a good point.
It's a number on a screen that is, for all intents and purposes, it's very arbitrary. I'm sure some out there will say, well, actually it's calculated by this, this, and this, and the amount of oil that comes, from, some
Strait of
desert
Hormuz. I'll say the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, something. But in practicality, it's arbitrary, and it's this kind of great tool to kind of like put stressors on like people's, not even people's like economic movement or really their lives, just really their mood and like their emotional state. Cause it's like, I think back to like, 2021 when like gas prices kind of spiked under Biden. And, and like there were all those stickers around of like Biden with,
I did this.
Yeah. Like that is like, that
Yeah.
didn't really affect anybody, at least like en masse for like, just average middle class Americans. Didn't really affect how they lived their lives. They just lived their lives a little bit more pissed off. That was about it. And that's kind of the gauge. And like, don't get me wrong, like if they wanted to, they could use the gas price thing to really actually screw over a lot of people. It's definitely a tool in the arsenal. And like, it's something I was thinking about recently is like, man, you talk about a dependency, everyone kind of points at the obvious, like, the power grid, the water grid. Dude, gas too is like, if you can't travel anywhere, especially if you want to get out of the city thing, like that's a problem. Like things are spaced out in most of America, right?
Which is a good thing in a lot of ways.
No, it is. It's a great thing, right? But it does make it to where it's like, if you don't have like, you're very dependent on the system for travel, I think, more than people think about sometimes.
Yeah.
And like people are kind of freaking out about that now with like the whole, AI push for the AI push for cars in like 2027 or whatever. But like, man, they already have a pretty good stronghold over you at the pump, right? Like they can turn that tap off pretty easily if they wanted to, and all hell would break loose. But they use it just on a basis level to manipulate people's emotions, and like it's a tough thing because it's like, it's a thing that to an extent you just have to accept that you don't have any control over. And you just kind of have to accept it. Like that is, it's one of the things that like, yeah, it comes from the devil in a way. It just does. Like you're not going out there and, starting your own gas refinery and generating your own gasoline. And if you start figuring out the ways to probably actually do that,
you'll get murdered.
They'll come and shoot you.
Yeah.
You'll die a suspicious death in a national park somewhere.
Yeah.
So, I try to not give a lot of that too much of my attention because it's kind of just a bottomless rabbit hole that you can't really, it doesn't do anything for you,
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you're exactly right. I don't know what else there is to say about that. Like there really doesn't seem to be much recourse. Sure, there are people who are like, there are like 5 people out there probably making their own biodiesel at home. Outside of that, who the hell is doing, like, nobody's doing that. Nobody has the means or capacity to do that. And so what are you going to do? You're going to deal with it. You're going to bend over and you're going to pay for it. Like that's what people are going to do. And sure, it's upsetting. Andrew, it's a time to organize. Fascist oligarchy was not in our Constitution. It's the point of the Second Amendment. And I mean, like, agree, wholeheartedly agree. But as far as like the people probably, at home about AI controlling their gas prices, I don't know. I guess my thought is complaining nonstop is never going to get any of us anywhere. Either do something or don't. But outside of that, just shut the hell up. It's like the concept of raising awareness. People who want to go out there and raise like, we're all aware cancer is a thing. We don't need to raise cancer awareness. Like, we get it. It happens. You're not helping anybody. You know, like it seems like that's where a lot of these very valuable pursuits get stuck. You know,
Yeah.
we want to raise awareness about what's going on at the pump. We're not going to do anything about it, but now you know, so you can be extra pissed off at your house.
Yeah, and it's the thing, like, that I notice a lot. Like, it's kind of funny. I think a lot of people know the solution, but also somewhere in their subconscious they realize the solution is the end of the world. Like, if you, because
Yeah.
I said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember what we were talking about. It was again that guy from Alabama that was, like, going at his town hall meeting about the flock
Oh,
cameras.
flock cameras, yeah.
And, like, you can oh, sorry, accidentally, you can battle the thing, like, just the isolated thing, but if you don't attack the principles that, like, are under the thing of why it's happening, it'll just rear its head back in another way. It's kind of a hydra in that regard. And, like, this is kind of one of those things that if you want to actually attack the root of why, like, say gas prices are fucked up the way they are, well, you got to go to the Federal Reserve. You got to go to the banking system. And if you knock that thing down, it is the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's the end of this whole thing as we know it. And maybe that's the whole plan. Like, we've talked a lot even tonight about, like, the whole, like, they kind of want to knock this thing down. Maybe at some point this will be a narrative to drum up enough support where it will be the thing that kind of breaks the camel's back, so to speak.
Right.
But, until people are ready to, like, address the underlying principle, the underlying usury that is causing all of this, you're not going to change it in a way that's actually constructive, that doesn't just lead to, like, a pretty dark place,
No, I think you're exactly right.
It's, you can end the Federal Reserve tomorrow. What happens is, like, riots in your streets, is like looting. It's literally hell.
Right.
It's hell on earth. And, like, that's kind of the place we're in. I think people kind of have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because at that point it puts you, like, if you want to, like, for most people want to do something about it, it puts you on the line of you're either virtue signaling or you're setting yourself up to be, like, used in an intelligence operation.
100%. 100%. Yeah. That seems to be where, what's up, Brain Files, by the way? What's going on, fellas? That seems to be exactly where a lot of these things are setting people up for. I mean, that's what I wonder about in a lot of these moments where they appear to be goading the average fellow. And the question at this point is, I mean, Andrew mentioned it in the chat, 6G agenda, like the whole concept of, like, a fascist oligarchy was never in the Constitution. It's time to organize. Like, and you're exactly right, John. Like to address these problems, you have to address the underlying issue, right? It's like, not to be that hippy dippy guy, but, like, it's like functional medicine. Like, you can give me insulin pills all day, right? But if I want to fix my diabetes, I've got to stop eating sugar and sitting around like a fatty, If I don't address the fact, the actual problem, I can deal with the symptoms all day long, but I'm never going to fix the thing that needs to be fixed. No. And so the question you have to ask yourself, right? Because these gas prices are a symptom of, on a certain level, the Federal Reserve, and then past that, like all these evil entities that are running the world, past that, like Satan, right? And so we go straight from gas prices to Satan, just alarmingly quickly, uncomfortably quickly. And so if you're going to address these things on a functional level, I think you have to address them on every plane. And the question you have to ask yourself, if you actually want to go out and live the thing you believe, is if you're successful in solving this problem, are you ready for Armageddon? Like, are you ready for that? Because that's what's coming. Okay? And me personally, I'm kind of a guys. So I'll just let you folks know, I'm okay with gas prices a little bit higher if it means Armageddon's not next Tuesday. And is that a healthy attitude? No, it's not. It's, and I fully recognize that. But let me tell you, I like air conditioning and I like not having to walk to work. But to all of the more purely minded conspiracy people that are hopefully listening
in your car, so that analogy falls flat on its face a little bit.
I was talking about the air conditioning in my house, John, in my duplex.
Oh, the walking to work, you're hot in the drive or hot in the walk, but whatever.
That's correct.
Sorry.
Anyway, aside from my car without air conditioning, I've completely lost my point. What the hell was I saying? You wiener.
Sorry.
You have air conditioning in your car, by the way.
Just had to point out the flaw in your analogy.
I appreciate it. I don't remember what I was saying beforehand, but yeah, I mean the entities behind these gas prices are certainly evil, and there's really not much more to say about that. So beyond that, speaking of AI and evil entities, Virginia is rolling out a new state-issued ID, a new state-issued digital ID. Now, at the moment, it's voluntary, but it seems more than likely, I mean, this is the way all this stuff goes, right? It's voluntary at the moment. A couple of years from now, it'll probably be the norm. This is the same concept, people.
Well, the Virginia DMV is rolling out Virginia Mobile ID, a digital version of your driver's license kept on your cell phone. While you still have to carry your physical license, the digital ID is accepted at more than 350 TSA locations across the country, at select ABC stores, businesses, and by certain law enforcement agencies. In Charlottesville, the digital ID
that you share when you're passing over your ID, there's a lot of information that you're sharing. But with the Virginia Mobile ID, it's a QR code and a picture of you. The entity that's scanning the QR code will only see the information that they need to see to verify your identity or age.
Representatives say the program is continuing to add new agencies to the list of accepted locations. And you can find more information on where and how to use the mobile ID on our website. Well,
I mean, is there even anything to say about that other than that's...
Yeah. And they even like, I start to notice this more and more now. They even like seed the retardation right in there. It's like, you still have to carry your physical ID with you, but you can have this thing too. And it's just like, it's automatically getting you to do something that is just like on the face of it. Like, don't even peel back the layers to see what's behind it. It's just in practice. It's in their own practice, and they do that a lot. The more and more you look at it, like
download this app.
Yeah, in their own paradigm, it's stupid.
That was the first thing I noticed about the video the other day. It was like, we have this new digital ID app, but you still have to have your real one. This digital one doesn't count, but you should get it, but it doesn't count. Like, what the hell? What's the point? Like, I don't understand. It's completely idiotic. It doesn't make any rational sense. The only I don't even know who's gonna fall for this. Like, I don't know who's gonna buy into this. I'm sure somebody will, thinking, oh, it'll just be easier. I can show them but you're right. It's the same thing with trying to figure out, like, when the media or whatever entities are communicating with you are full of shit and when they're not. The internal logic doesn't make any sense. And it never does. And this is such a clear example of that. I love that. All right. So we're winding down here, folks. Let's talk a little bit about education, which is a hot button topic for a lot of parents, and understandably so, right? You don't want your kid learning about chicks with at their local elementary school. Most people don't want that. They don't want to send their sweet little Tim or Mary or whatever kids are being named these days. Millennials name their kids the dumbest shit, man. Like Benningham or something like that. Like, you don't want your sweet little kid learning about chicks with beads at school. Okay? But that is exactly what I believe this was in Sao Paulo, court mandated this couple had to do. This is in Brazil, for the folks that are curious where Sao Paulo is, because I didn't know when I read this article. Sao Paulo, the court ruled against this person whose name I don't know how to pronounce and his wife, alleging they had failed to include programs on gender. This couple homeschools, by the way. I missed that very, very important piece of information. This couple was homeschooling their kids. Let's start there. This couple was homeschooling their kids, and a lawsuit was leveled against them by the Sao Paulo Criminal Court alleging that they failed to include programs on gender and sex education, as well as tolerance and diversity in their curriculum for their daughters aged 15 and 11. 15 and 11. And they were sentenced, these parents, who their name is the Dinardis, by the way, which sounds a lot like retardees. And I realize those probably aren't related at all, but that was the first thing I thought when I read that. Anyway, they were sentenced to 50 days in prison by a lower court in April, which again, this is kind of like the rainwater story. Like, I doubt they'll go through with the full sentence. Certainly, I doubt they'll be sentenced to any jail time in the long run, but they were sentenced to 50 days by a lower court in April. Okay. Allegedly, this is the first criminal prosecution of its kind in Brazil. These were parents who decided to start homeschooling their kids in 2020 after the Rona officially withdrew their daughters from school in 2022. And what this court is pissed off about is exactly what I was alluding to when we started talking about this. Like, apparently they're not teaching their daughters about transgender students and how to put a condom on a banana. You know, like, what 11-year-old needs to know that anyway? Hopefully you have no need for condoms at 11. I'm sure John did, but the rest of us didn't. Okay. John's a virile young man, ladies and gentlemen. But if this is true, and again, this came out from the New York Post, so I always wonder, like, are these stories true? Are they just clickbait? This is the thing that leads into the kind of overreach that existed in 1984. And I guess the thing that bothers me the most about these concepts is it always comes from a place of, like, I think I heard this, I can't remember where, this whole idea of, like, terminal empathy, right? This whole idea of, like, it's for the good of the children. John, do you want your 11-year-old daughter going out and getting pregnant? Well, no, I don't. But I also don't want her learning about some guy getting his flayed open and turned into a vagina. Like, I'd rather neither of those things happen. What if we just don't do either one? What do we think about that? How do we feel about that? Thoughts, John?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot to this, and, like, you know, man, on first thing I kind of thought of is, like, you know, I think back to, you know, I was probably like 10 or 11 when the whole, like, marriage thing went down with the Supreme Court under Obama. I just remember all of the right wingers and conservatives, like, freaking their shit out and be like, well, they're coming for your kids next.
Right.
And
then they did.
They weren't really wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
they
like,
did.
They kind of were right on that. And it's like, you know, you see, you know, and like, you look at a little bit, there's a lot of why that happened, but you see the culture a little bit to that. And it's like, it'll just keep taking and taking, right? That's how all of these institutions kind of work, is like, it's there to take. And again, like, behind all of this is kind of like the usury of the whole system, right? Is that at some point you have to, you know, if you accept one thing they're offering, well, it's like, we got to have the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, right, you accept this. It's like, well, you have to have, chicks with dick in your daughter's classroom. And it gets back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. If you don't actually examine the root of this, and you just battle the thing that they're putting out in front of you, it doesn't really go away. Like, this has been going on for what, like, en masse for like 15 years, and like it's still going on kind of everywhere in little microcosms. Like, this is in Brazil, and like, I think people have
going
to,
on in Europe. Like, it's going on everywhere.
yeah. It's like, I think people have to look a little bit, deeper and start like, why, and like that'll lead you to maybe some places people don't want to go, but like, why is this in front of you? Right? Like, why are they trying to put, just absolute degenerate in your kids' classrooms? Why do they want to subject you to that?
Yeah. Well, dude, I think part of the problem here, and we've had some talks about it, I know I've had some arguments about it, is what most nice people who are against this end up doing is saying, that's not nice, I don't want anything to do with it, and walking away. And the problem there is that the truly dark nature of what's going on isn't appreciated, right? Mm-hmm. This is the area where I think people like Owen Benjamin are very valuable, that will get up and say the thing and call it what it is. It's this whole idea of saying, well, I don't like the fact that there are transgender people in the classroom having uncomfortable conversations with my 7-year-old. That's not, no. You don't like the fact that some giant just of a human being with a massive 7-inch is dressing up like, and reading Go Dogs Go in fishnet stockings and a bikini to your 7-year-old who can see his 12-inch Punisher sticking out of his shorts. You don't like that. You don't like that, and nor should you. Okay? But when we paint these things like they're normal, right? When we don't want to call them out for what they are, you end up with this slow creep of these things into your life because you don't say the thing. You don't call it what it is. You don't treat it like what it is. You simply accept that it's uncomfortable and you don't like it and it's bad. But kind of like we started out the show talking about, you don't engage with it in any kind of meaningful way. Like you don't call out the chaos for what it is.
Yeah. Like there's a difference in like, trying to get away from the thing or avoid the thing out of anger and fear, or trying to like cut yourself away from it, but like rooted in the truth. Right. There's a massive difference there, because it's like one is kind of letting that thing have power over you. And one is kind of, as we were talking about with Zach and Jason the other night, is having power over it, like that's a massive difference. And I think we see a lot of that a little bit in like, the cultural discourse of like dealing with this shit that's in schools is like, it's more so like people want to avoid the thing out of like, they want to avoid it out of fear, but not like that, like, hey, this is viscerally wrong and it like should not be accepted. Right. And like kind of rooted in the truth of the matter is like, not that like, hey, this is just like disturbing and it shouldn't be like exposed. It shouldn't be exposed to anybody. And right, you have to call it wrong for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, and maybe that's why it just keeps perpetuating itself and doesn't really go away, is that like, the people who are like opposed to this showing up in their child's classrooms don't actually root and be like, hey, like this just isn't, this is objectively not the truth.
Yeah.
In every way that it manifests.
Right.
And like, and it is kind of that thing like back 10, 15 years ago, is that like, hey, when you accepted that like, hey, you can call this marriage, this is the end result. It's like you have to cut off like the foundation. You can't cede anything to the lie, kind of thing.
Yeah.
it's a show. Like, that story's a show. I hope it's not true.
Same. I desperately hope it's not true.
You know?
You hit on a very valuable point, though. This whole concept that you can't cede any ground to the lie. And I think that is extremely crucial to any kind of discussion around this, because we see it very regularly in a lot of these culture wars that are going on all over the place. In an effort to keep the peace, right? Because it has social utility to most people's lives, you cede a little bit of ground to the lie, whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's, let's not even start with the trannies, right? Let's start with everybody just constantly everybody else in the media in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right? Like, let's start there. That's where we got this idea on a broader cultural scale that, like, nah, dude, it's chill. It's whatever, bro. Like, you know, like, whatever. It's fine. I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where that concept started, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to trace it back to like the beginning, it probably started before that. I'm just too young and to know where it came from prior to that. And so you're exactly right, though. The minute you cede one little bit in an effort to keep the peace, you've already lost that entire battle, because we're talking about, and generally that's not the case. Like, I'm all for being reasonable, practical, pragmatic. All those things are good. But when it comes to capital T truth, okay, when it comes to actual truth, there's no ceding ground to that. There's no saying, okay, but there's no saying, well, it helps everybody be okay with everybody. No, we're talking, truth isn't a compromisable thing. Okay. Once it's compromised, it's not truth anymore. It's fake. There's no middle ground when it comes to truth. It was a long time ago, and it's a episode, but I still remember somebody came on our show, I think it was Nate, and said, truth is what is. And I think that's one of the most true things that's ever been said on our show, because there are no two ways around it.
Yeah, I have to, don't go back and watch that episode.
Yeah, don't. It's terrible.
You'll hate yourself.
Yeah, fully recognized. Awful, terrible media. But he was right about that.
Yeah,
like, truth is what is. And I mean, that's, I feel weird pulling Bible and scripture into this like narrative rant, but like, God almost said that in reference to himself, like this whole concept of I am that I am, right?
Yeah.
Full stop. There's no compromising that.
Yeah.
And I think it's borne out in the way that we comport ourselves. I mean, you referenced, I think it was Heiser, who talks about, like, man wasn't created in the image of God. They're imagers of God.
Yeah.
And that means we have to treat truth the same way God would treat truth. It just is.
Yeah. And, like, you know, I talk a lot about, like, you have to recognize, like, the underlying cause of, like, why it keeps rearing its head. And it's like, you have to recognize, like, what you're trading to allow that compromise. Like, in the school system, it's, you know, with this whole shit is like, you have to compromise something to keep the peace a little bit. Like, you know, obviously, there's the line in the sand, and that's what people are fighting over. But you've ceded something that has allowed this to have a foothold, you know, because it's like you've taken that trade for that system.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. You've traded over, you know, in a weird way, like you've a little bit like kind of traded over, you know, I guess education of your kids or whatever. Like, that system takes a lot. And it, you know, forces people into a lot, but there is a trade there, and that trade gives it a foothold, and it's everywhere, dude. Is like, to like keep the peace in all of these different like systems that we, you know, interact with. Like, that's the way they do it. Is like, you compromise just a little bit so it has a foothold, and it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
And like, that's the hard thing to examine, because then it actually starts to cost something to you to kind of break that, you know, contract, so to speak. But that's how it's all held together. And like, they want you almost like, they want the people at like the PTA meetings fighting over like the most extreme line in the sand. And they don't want them to actually examine, how did it get a foothold in the first place? Because once you do that, it's like, oh, well, maybe I can just cut ties with it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of where like a lot of these things have gotten to. a lot of these different kind of culture war pushes, and it's like they don't want you to examine like how they got there to begin with.
100%.
A little bit of what we talked about earlier in the show of like kind of the design of like how media is presented these days.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. 100% right. All right, folks. So on to some less upsetting topics. We just got done. It's July. It's July 15th. We just made it out of Pride Month. But folks, if you didn't celebrate the way you feel like you should have, I'm here to tell you, you have another opportunity. We're entering into Black Pride Month. Because that's a thing, apparently. Apparently, July is Black Pride Month, and according to, I started looking at just the most liberal newspapers I could find, and let me tell you guys, if you want an entertaining way to spend like a lazy Saturday morning, if you're like me and you can't sleep past 6 a.m. anymore, and you're like, what the hell am I going to do till the farmer's market opens and I can go be gay and drink a cup of coffee and cruise around the farmer's market with a bunch of Californians, this is a great option for you. Look at the most liberal newspapers you can find, and they'll let you know. Somebody just asked, that's not February. You bigot. You absolute garbage person. How dare you, Nick? Okay. February is Black Pride Month. July is Black Pride Month for the gay blacks. They have a separate month. How? I'm offended. You're basically a slave owner. I mean, you're basically just a white nationalist, and you probably want to kill babies, and I'm offended by that. So how dare you? I'm very angry at you now. But July is Black Pride Month, and according to the Progressive, it serves as more than a celebration. It's a necessary corrective to the nation's revisionist history, selective memory, and deliberate attempts to erase the struggles, achievements, and contribution of the sandwich people, the LGBTQBLT people. I was so shocked that June wasn't enough. We need another month, and that's what we're in right now. Later on in the article, but views on pride are deeply divided, and not simply along the lines of race, class, gender, or sexual identity. Some sandwich Americans feel that activism such as protests against police brutality and in support of Palestine, it's made pride too overly political. Yeah, it has. If you just being gay is at least entertaining. You see a guy running away from a spider, that's funny. Okay, a guy running away from a spider screaming about Palestine, annoying. All right, so understand your limits, people. Others, like religious conservatives and right-wing Republicans, see pride as sinful and indecent behavior on public display. They dismiss pride as a month-long bacchanalia of drugs, alcohol, and sexual excess. That's exactly what it is. Believing it desecrates the legacy of the Stonewall Rebellion and diminishes the political significance of the gay movements. Someone wrote this and was serious about writing this, and I think that's more entertaining than anything. Oh, wow. Whew. So that's Black Pride Month. We're in it right now, people. And if you're not celebrating, go have sex with a black person. I think that's the best way to celebrate. Honestly, that seems to be the most appropriate way to celebrate. And in keeping with that general theme, we have a clip of somebody who is very clearly doing their best. Folks, if you're listening on the audio platforms, I'm sorry you can't see this, but we have a clip of somebody who's very clearly doing their best to celebrate along with the marginalized communities during Black Pride Month.
I don't want to see that.
Female, and now you're a man.
Yes.
You were born as
a female.
As a female, and now you're a man.
Yes.
Did you get changed into this?
Yes.
Okay, explain this for me, because I don't think a lot of people will understand.
I don't know. It's just I just like to feel comfortable in my skin, so I just wear whatever I want. And especially during big events, I like to just dress how I feel.
Okay, number one, what the is that? And number two, you got the wrong muzzle. You need the muzzle that makes you shut the up.
Changed into this?
What is this? I mean, what is this thing, this beast of the field that is being interviewed? This is allegedly, according to its own words.
I swear, I see more degenerate from right wingers than I ever do from lefties trying to promote this. For whatever reason, I never understand, because it's like I think that chick's used to be on InfoWars. It's like, yeah, she used to be a part of InfoWars back in the day. For whatever reason, like in the like conservative Inc. like media institution, they have this necessity to be like, look, like
they do that.
They do that a lot. I don't know if anyone else, they do that all the time. Is be like, hey, look at this. It's like 100%. I don't really have any opinions on it, but it's a look at it. You know, like what possesses her to have the freaking need to go out and like put that out? Like, I would not have been exposed to that otherwise. Like,
and you would have missed out, John.
I definitely wouldn't have. Like, what possesses them to have the need to go do that? Because it seems like they all do that. Like Steven Crowder used to do that all the time. I'm sure he still does. Right? Ben Shapiro used to do it. Like, they all freaking, you know, it's insane to me.
Yeah,
I guess exactly, like maybe that is the precursor to now they're being like, look, but you know, it started out being like, hey, look at this. And it's just it's crazy.
It's the same thing. Everybody's seen those videos of like the Hydra Kid, Hydra Wife guy, or the lady who was like, oh Lord Jesus, there's a fire. Like those people, you know, it's the exact same thing they've been doing for forever. Like, look at these people we found after a tornado in the middle of rural Tennessee. Again, like it's always Tennessee where they find these inbred people, and they're like, I've never seen one of those people a day in my life, but somehow they track them down in the middle of like Fly, Tennessee, or Bell Buckle, these towns no one's ever heard of.
Yeah,
they do the exact same thing here, but with the gays, where they find this, allegedly this is a girl who has a beard now from hormones, and put on just a massive dog muzzle over her giant fat head. I've never seen such a beast a day in my life, but this lady tracked it down.
There's some weird psychology in the people who like actively will go out into like the public to like seek that out.
Yeah. Like, why do you want to do that with your day?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I would enjoy doing that for a single day. I think I would enjoy it. You would hate it. You would be miserable the entire time.
Tolerate that, dude. That's crazy.
I would have some fun going fag hunting. It's like snipe hunting, but they're real. Like, you go find just the most flamboyant person you can possibly track down and just rage bait them.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
That could be the new thing, John, that the kids are doing on social media.
Absolutely not.
That could be great. All right. So, last thing, guys, we talked a lot about morality on this show, and we talked a little bit about the gays tonight, and we've talked about people with bad morals. So I just, this guy, I saw this commercial on Facebook. This is a commercial. This isn't a random video. This is a full-on commercial of a guy trying to sell his product. And I've never felt more, this is a product about not watching porn. I've never felt more sexually unsafe in my life. Let's take a listen here.
I'm mute, dude.
Yeah, I thought I'd
of this morning. That is You watched porn last night and hated yourself this morning. That is self-hatred, not the porn that is keeping you stuck. I'm Sylvan Neves, psychosexual therapist, and I've spent 15 years helping men understand exactly why that loop happens. Most men have already tried everything they can think of to quit porn. Cold turkey did not last. Content blockers found a workaround. And now they think they've run out of options.
I'm here to tell you, this man does not help men get off of porn. He helps little boys. That's who he's helping get off of porn. What the hell is this guy? He had to have seen like a copy of this commercial, right? He had to have heard himself.
Yeah.
Who's buying this as a result of this commercial? Who's like, I've been having some issues lately. This is the guy to help me. Who thought that? Who listened to that and was like, dude, I whacked off again last night. This faggot's going to be the one to help me get off. No, I don't understand. Whose idea was this? Somebody greenlit this marketing campaign. Somebody said, that's the copy. We're using that one. What the hell? I fully support his endeavors, but he's the exact wrong person. Get a spokesperson, okay?
Right.
Get an ugly woman. Like, that would be perfect. Get a very ugly Helga type woman. A Viking, okay? A Viking woman, like 6'2", 280, just gigantic. With boils. This is not the man. This is the guy who's in the corner of circumcisions, wondering if he can suck the wine off. This is that guy.
Like, change the music too.
Yeah, also that.
That didn't help at all. It made it 10. I think the music made it 10 times more creepy. This like creepy little AI, like cello orchestra or whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it, folks. Thanks for listening.
What an ending to the show there. We haven't had one of those in a while of just like, why the f did you choose that to end the show? So it's good.
I thought it was appropriate.
It's
Yeah.
good to bring that one in there. Sometimes you nail it. Sometimes it's like, why the heck why? But oh well.
Yeah, I thought about skipping this one, but I wanted to talk about it. Folks, thanks for hanging out. It's been a ton of fun tonight. Go like the stream, follow the channel if you haven't followed the channel yet. Be sure to tune in live every Tuesday for Touch Me Tuesdays, where we talk about the things that touch me. And hopefully, Q, you're coming back. Q said he's never coming back. You're coming back, big boy. You're coming back to daddy. Sorry, I said that. So be sure to tune in live every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time for Touch Me Tuesdays. We'll be on the 6G Agenda podcast Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Now, 8 p.m. Central Time, folks. Be sure to go like and follow the 6G Agenda podcast channel. That's a blast. We just, if you need some content, go watch the show we just did with the Berean Files. That'll be out on the audio platforms within the next week or so. Go like their channel, follow their channel, a bunch of cool stuff over there as well. Be sure to give us a follow on all of the channels all over. Okay, we're at the Veritas Road everywhere, the Veritas Road Pod on Twitter. And then if you like the show, you want more of the show, maybe you want to enjoy the odd post-show reaction we do after a guest, go over to the Patreon, sign up there. You can scan the QR code in the top left-hand corner. You can get in where you fit in over there. You can get access to the Discord chats. We have the odd Patreon exclusive episode that goes out. Some good stuff over there. You'll get a sticker pack. Yes, Nef Hunter, Q, and JC. We do still owe you some stickers. We're going to get them cut eventually. I know we are. So we will send you cut and uncut stickers, hopefully sometime in the future. All right, John, am I missing anything?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Sweet. Folks, thanks for listening. It's been a good time. You got anywhere to send the people, bud?
Yeah, I'll send them over to Austin Jose. I think Already Dead's kicked off. So
nice. Well, for our Rumble listeners, then stay tuned for Already Dead. It'll be a good time. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye.